We're already seeing this. We saw this a lot fourth quarter last year, and we're still seeing it. A lot of companies, for whatever reason, and the two most popular I've heard is the economy, and God, we hate Vista. Put off any kind of expenditures on IT in terms of improving their infrastructure. So we have those two situations where no, we're good for right now. We know we have to do this, but we're good for right now. Kind of like me and working out. But at some point, two things happen. One is you can't ignore the issues anymore. No, it is. We've been trying to hold off, but now we see the new technology, we see the opportunities the new technology offers us. Hey, now we can do it. That, along with the economy, is now not quite as bad. And actually, like I said, we've got manufacturing companies, a decent number of them, and they're all doing pretty good. So right now, companies are saying, all right, now it's time to take a look. Now it's time to revisit the whole issue of what's going on from an IT perspective. Okay. And they should call us, just in case you know anybody like that, because we gave you lunch. IT is a commodity. How many of you guys buy machines online from like Dell? Okay, so I mean, one of the things that happens when you do that now is they have, it used to be how many years of service do I want on the hardware and how fast do I want them to send the part? Next business day, 4-hour response, whatever. Well, now there's an additional line that basically says, do you want us to manage it for you? So now Dell, HP's also doing it, IBM's doing it, are now trying to get to a certain degree what we do. And that is to manage the resource, to manage that service for you remotely. Come in when we need to, yada, yada, yada. Oh boy. Well, here's the fun part. If you looked at the IT support business 5 or 10 years ago, it was break fix. Okay? We'll sell it for you, we'll sell it to you, we'll install it for you, and then when it's broke, you call us, we'll come out and fix it. And you'll pay us when we fix it, or we won't fix it right. Sorry. That's okay. Now the managed service came along. The managed service, we're going to be proactive. We're going to monitor your network. We'll be responsible for it. And for a fixed monthly fee, we'll take care of all of your issues. We'll be proactive. The return on investment is that you don't have as much downtime. You can plan, blah, blah, blah. Well, now there's a third step into that that's coming out where some of these larger companies are saying we're going to include that with the sale that we made to you of hardware. And that's not even getting into hardware as a service or anything along those lines. And really, it gets down to this. Networks should just work. We should be, we're nowhere near this, we should be to the point where a network that is not working is truly unusual. And by that I mean the servers, the workstations, the applications, all of that stuff, it really should just work. We've been at this for decades. You know, that doesn't mean they should work without anybody touching them. That doesn't mean there aren't going to be failures on occasion. But by and large, the business expectation should be, when Sally comes in to do her job, she should be able to do her job. And more resources, local and remote, are going to be available to make that happen. But the challenge is going to be that companies who are in this boat do not have that network installed. So if they have a network that they've scraped together over the last few years because they couldn't afford to buy the server they needed, they just got a server that would make do. It would work for now. So there's going to be a bit of a collision between this concept and the previous concept or the previous issue, where you're going to have a guy who said, and this John and I, we've sat and made, talked to companies about bringing them on board. We've had this discussion where the guy will say, this should just work. And part of my response wants to be, you've got a server that's 9 years old, You've got servers that don't have backup RAID configuration. You haven't done a good backup on your network in 2 years. You haven't patched anything, you know, since Bush left office. You know, and the list goes on and on. My question really is, this shouldn't work. How is it still working? And coming up to that arrangement or that agreement between the service provider and the service receiver that, well, first of all, we've got to get your network in a place where it should be working. It's reasonable to expect it, and then from then on it should work. That's going to be a lot of the discussion I think that's going to happen this year between companies. Then how do you compete with overseas? And at the same time, how do you take advantage of the overseas? You know, on one side of the fence, we would love to say America first, always buy American, always this, that, or the other thing. But if you buy all of your products and all of your materials from one supplier, I don't even care who, with no thought to the cost, and you have to push that back to your customer, you're going to be out of business. Because your competition isn't going to be doing the same thing. Again, one of the best examples that I have is our backup disaster recovery, our BDR devices. Right now, the best known devices out there are provided by Zenith. And Zenith, all of their support is in India. And I have absolutely nothing against Zenith or India or whatever, except for I just can't bloody well understand them. I truly can't. And we've worked with other, I mean, anyway. And that's a universally known in this particular case with Zenith, with their support, don't do anything but chat. If you talk to them, it's just the phone line reception, it's just lousy. So we've gone with eFolder. eFolder, their support in the United States. The products in the United States, all of that is local. And we can compete, actually we can beat Zenith on pricing. So we're not sitting here going, buy American or do this or do that. We're competing, and competing successfully. And that's what has to happen here. Service, service, service. Probably about 2/3 of the companies that we talk to in terms of coming on board with us, where we're going to be supporting their IT, all that good stuff, they had somebody else before us, and they're looking to replace them. And usually, 2/3 of the time, the reason they're replacing them is because crappy service. In a lot of cases, yeah, what they did worked, but it was a pain in the butt getting a hold of them. It was tough. They said they'd come out and they didn't. Well, they fixed it, but we don't know what they did. We have a client that we're doing some just project work. We're doing some SharePoint and some network management. And the SharePoint we're just doing a little bit on. And there was another company who was providing the SharePoint. That's cool. You know, we cooperate with other companies. Well, the client asked the other company for just a couple of relatively simple SharePoint issues. And the other IT solution provider literally said, we can't even respond to that until the end of February. But give us a call then. Literally, dissect this for a second. Literally, we can't help you until February, which is very different from we can't get your problem solved. Okay? And then the other one, call us then. It blows my freaking mind. Needless to say, we're going to be a little faster on this one. And the challenge is, as we've said here, I have no problem if we can't do something. But we need to find somebody who can. Because we want to have the answer. The answer may not be us. But we want to have the answer.
So is that your approach? You guys are up against the wall, you can't help the customer, you can't, for whatever reason, you seek out another third party or someone.
Well, we first try to get the customer drunk. Okay? Yeah, and actually under all circumstances, that's our first line of no, that's a good question. So what do? We have not run into the circumstance where we truly can't do it because we're too slammed, we're too busy. Usually the situations that we run into is it's a skill set outside of our own. Okay? So for example, we have one client or we have a couple clients who do CAD, a lot of AutoCAD. So we have someone already we know that does AutoCAD. So we'll introduce them and we'll say, hey, one of two things. Either one, you can hire this company and have them come in and do AutoCAD and they'll charge you this amount of money. Or we'll hire them, have them come in and do the same AutoCAD work and we'll charge you this amount of money, which means we're going to make some money off the deal. But you'll know exactly how much. Your choice, what do you want to do? Okay? Similarly, we've also had situations where like cabling, and we'll help them find the vendor and see if the vendor's appropriate. So the idea is we actually had one, and this is one where we haven't done as good of a job on this, so I'll tell you our blemishes as well as our good one, where we're trying to find the CRM. We had one client, and now in this case they're mildly interested, so it wasn't a hot potato or all that kind of thing. And actually it wasn't a client that does a lot of business with us, where we're trying to find somebody who can deal with Microsoft CRM better than we can.
So do you find yourself in that vendor management role more often than not, or both?
Both, but more often it's not. So usually, probably 90% of the stuff we can do ourselves. And there's only a couple, and it's usually project-based that we can't. So in some cases, what we'll do with a company is, so for example, there's one company, manufacturing company, that's going through some barcode upgrades to their manufacturing application. We don't know their application. We're not experts in their application. So in that case, we assist on the project. We don't lead the project. Whereas the same customer is looking for upgrades to their pipe coming in. They're the ones who are looking at the fiber. That we lead the project because we know more than anybody else in the company does. But we manage the vendors that we're talking to. Does that make sense? I mean, the whole point is, and I guess this is really critical. One of the things that really blows my mind is, if you have talks with somebody and you ask them, what makes your company unique? Well, the answer is usually not much, okay? Or should be usually not much, because let's face it, we don't have a lot of, there really aren't that many truly unique companies, or companies don't have, but what I'd love to hear is our commitment to service. Oh, great, because nobody else has that. It's amazing. You're in that vertical market that everybody hates their customers. It's kind of interesting. But how does that manifest itself? Because you can sit there and say, I'm treating my customer absolutely wonderfully, but if you ask them, not so much. And part of the challenge that we have is we may have 10 customers lined up. They want to be handheld. They want to know everything we do before or after or during we do it. They don't want to hear from us unless we have to tell them to evacuate the building. And all points between, and we have to, and by us, we have to manage to make sure they're handled the way they want to be handled. And when that works nicely, and when that works best, when we're not doing it right, and that happens, they will tell us immediately so we can change. As opposed to, here's the contract, and by this contract we will respond in this manner.